Hello coders, welcome to another How to Code Well Symfony tutorial. Today I'm going to teach you how to use root requirements to control which roots are used on your controllers. Let's first take a look at the browser. We have, of course, the Symfony welcome page here, but there's two other roots. There is /edit, which takes us to this JSON response where we have the message edit actions. And there is also a root that requires the @ symbol and then the name of a user handle. In this case, we're going to use my Twitter handle, which is @pfwd, and that's going to return us the user handle @pfwt as a JSON response. So how does this work? How does Symfony know that /edit goes to one root, whereas /@ and then the user handle goes to another? That is what I'm going to be teaching in today's lesson. And it's not just @pfwd. We can supply any kind of user handle as long as it begins with the @ symbol. So I could do @howtocodewell, for instance, and we get the response user handle @howtocodewell. So there is something going on here where Symfony is requiring the @ symbol for a certain controller action. Let's take a look at the code and work out what's going on. In the GitHub repository under tutorials and tutorial 3, there is the src folder. In there we have a controller with a profile controller class. Let's just make a little bit of room and show you what that class includes. So this class, profile controller, has two actions. The first one is index and the second one is edit. The first method, index, requires a string as a parameter. That is the user handle. It's called app_profile. The path itself runs from / and then we have the parameter user handle. The second root that we're going to take a look at is the /edit. This has the root name of app_edit_profile, and it returns the JSON response edit actions. Symfony knows that there is a requirement on the index method. The requirement is for the user handle, the parameter supplied to the method. It must have an @ symbol at the start of the parameter. It's then followed by anything from A to Z, and it's done through this regular expression. This is the pattern, and this is the key. The key is the parameter that we're supplying, which means that if we had multiple parameters, we would have multiple keys and values in this requirements array. If that doesn't make sense, don't worry, because what I'm going to do is delete everything and rebuild everything from scratch and talk about what these things are as I build it. The first thing I'm going to do is delete our profile controller. I'm then going to run bin console make :controller and pass in the argument profile controller. That is the name of the profile class that we're going to create. If I press enter, this is going to make the controller, and that's going to go into our tutorial_3 src controller, and the file is profile controller. Here we have the bulk standard default method, which is index, with a return of JSON with the message welcome to your new controller, and we also have the path to the controller here. If I was to run Symfony serve and go to the browser and go to the root /profile, we'll see the output message welcome to your new controller, and we have the path, which is the src controller, profile controller. Of course, we don't want this root at all, so let's go back to the code. Let's change this root to be /edit and change the name to be app_edit profile with the message edit action, and we're going to remove the path element as well. Let's go back to the browser. If we refresh the page, which is /profile, this is going to 404 because we don't have that root anymore. We do, however, have the root /edit. We get the message edit action. So now let's go back to the code and create the next root, which will output the user handle that is supplied. I'm going to rename the index method to be edit. I'm then going to copy this method and paste it above. We're going to change the name of the first method to be index. We're also going to change the name of the root to be app_profile. We're going to change the root to be / and then the parameter of user handle. We're also going to supply that as a parameter to the index method. So that has a data type of string, and the name of the parameter is user handle. Let's change the JSON response, change the message key to be user handle, and instead of the string edit action, let's supply the variable user handle. At this stage, we haven't set up any of the requirements. However, we are saying that we must have a parameter user handle supplied to the index method. The edit method doesn't have any parameters. However, it must go to /edit. Let's go back to the browser and see what happens. If we refresh the page, which is /edit, we get the output of the index route, which is user handle, and the value is edit. So this is actually running the first method. It's not running /edit, which is our edit method. It's actually running the index method. And this is why we have requirements on our routes, because we're specifying the rules that these routes must adhere to. So let's go back to the code and add the requirements for the user handle. I'm now going to supply a third argument to the route annotation. This is going to be requirements. Requirements takes an array. The key of the requirements is the parameter that we want to check. In this case, it is user handle. The next thing we need to do is supply the pattern in which we want to check that user handle with. So this is going to be some regular expression. And if you don't know regex, don't worry about that, because I'm going to be supplying some tutorials about regular expressions soon on the How to Code Well channel. The first thing that we need to do is supply what's called a caret. A caret is the arrow symbol that's kind of pointing up north. This says that the regular expression starts here. It is starting now, right at the first part of the string. And that is going to be our @ symbol. So after the caret, add the @ symbol. After that, we want to specify a pattern that matches after the @ symbol is given. So in this case, it's going to be any letter from A to Z. And we do that using square brackets and then A-Z. At the moment, the regular expression is looking for a pattern that starts with the @ symbol and then has a letter that is either A all the way to Z, but it's only looking for one letter. We need to tell the pattern to look for more than one letter after the @ symbol, which means that we need to supply the plus symbol after the square brackets. Again, don't worry about regular expressions. I'm going to be doing a series on regular expressions soon. Do join the howtocodewell.net website to get those when they come through. The route annotation is getting quite long, and you can imagine that this pattern could actually be quite complicated in certain situations. What I like to do is to create new lines after the commas. Of course, this is a personal preference thing. I prefer reading code line by line rather than left to right. And I find that having annotations that have lots of these requirements, you could imagine that there could be multiple parameters that we want to check here, and you could imagine the patterns could be quite complicated. I prefer to have the route annotations specified on each line rather than left to right like we have here. However, the two arguments to this route is perfectly fine, perfectly easy to read. But when we get more than two, when we get 3, 4, 5, and when they get more confusing and complicated, I personally find it's easier to have these on separate lines. Anyway, let's go back to the browser and test out this change. We now should be able to go back to /edit, where we have message edit action. This is skipping the first index method because it knows that that route does not start with the @ symbol. However, if we were to supply @ and then pfwd and press enter, we go into the index method because it knows that this route matches that requirement because it starts with the @ symbol. And I can prove that by removing the @ symbol and just typing pfwd. If I press enter, it's going to give us a 404 because it doesn't start with the @ symbol and it's not /edit. This is pretty neat, right? And it makes Symfony roots incredibly flexible to use. We don't have to rely on the order in which the roots are specified. We can supply the requirements that the roots need to match. And as you can imagine, this allows us to make very complicated roots, such as roots that have dates in them. If you found this tutorial helpful, then do let me know, give it a thumbs up, share it around to those who might find it useful too. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to the How to Code Well YouTube channel. I'm going to be putting out lots more tutorials around Symfony and Laravel in the coming weeks and months. If you've got any suggestions though of what tutorials I should do next, go to howtocodewell.net/contact and let me know there. Whilst you're there, also consider signing up to howtocodewell.net because I've got a bunch of courses and of course you get all the access to the tutorials there too. Take care, happy coding everyone. I'll see you again in the next Symfony tutorial.